Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to be taking a look at She-Hulk's upgrade, which is a little bit weird that we got it this early, since usually we get Marvel show tie-ins about a month after the show ends. Either way, I'll be taking a look at her in this video, and maybe I'll do one for Black Widow at level 80 as well, since unfortunately I have to wait about a week or two to get the speed books in order to be able to T4 her. With her new uniform, She-Hulk didn't really get too much flavor across her skills. Most of them are pretty basic, but she does get about a 50% damage increase on her 4th skill and has that 45% damage increase on her 5th skill that she had before. So she basically has close to about 100% damage increase pretty much all the time. So she doesn't really have to rely on things like damage accumulation with those two buffs up. Apart from that, she got additional offensive improvements, including boss damage, chain hit damage, increased skill and bonus damage, ignore dodge, as well as higher hit counts and more damage across her skills. Her survival also improved by getting higher defenses, higher mitigation values, as well as more healing on her 3rd skill, increasing from 15% to 25%. As you can see from these clips, the character is pretty decent offensively. She has the damage to take down a stage 99 of Thanos with well over a minute left and no damage proc. She's also able to take down Proxima even faster within about a minute because of that high 50% all defense down that ignores immunity on her 5th skill. At T3, the character becomes considerably better because the T3 skill actually does an enormous amount of damage. My clear time versus Thanos improved by nearly 2 minutes because of that T3, and my clear time on Proxima improved by about 40 seconds, or in other words, I was able to take down Proxima 99 in about 30 seconds. Naturally, the true test for a character's performance in PvE is when you take them into World Boss Legend, and without using her leadership or supports, or even a damage proc, and just a bunch of random strikers, I was able to clear stage 9 of Knull with close to 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, which is a pretty good indication that the character is strong for PvE. If you do want to use her just for that, a CTP of Rage will likely be her best option, especially if you use her for something like Alliance Battle Extreme. However, you can definitely make something like a CTP of Destruction or an Energy work, since she is somewhat proc friendly. You can see because I was able to complete stage 9 in a good amount of time, I also took her into a higher stage, 19, this time using her amazing leadership, but still no supports. But despite that, I was still able to complete the stage with about a minute left. Finally, the last test that I did in World Boss Legend was to take her up to stage 29, this time adding in the supports, and I was still able to complete the stage with no damage proc and with about close to 40 seconds left. Even though that's not a lot of time left, that's actually really good considering no damage proc. For those of you who watched the video on the Kamala Khan or Miss Marvel uniform, you would know that She-Hulk is about 20 seconds slower than her on the same stage and with about the same setup. This means that the character is actually pretty awesome in PvE, considering that Kamala is amazing in PvE. I took the character into Giant Boss Raid Dormammu as well, and she was able to complete the first phase in about a minute and 30 seconds to a minute and 40 seconds, which means that she can definitely complete this fight on the speed day when she has a type advantage. I'm not sure what the most ideal rotation for her is if you have a CTP of Rage, but with a single skill damage proc, you would basically do 5, cancel 3, delay cancel after she does the uppercut, where a tornado will spawn, and then you go into the 4th skill, which is the one you proc on. Once you have your ultimate, you basically do 4, cancel 5, cancel 3, delay cancel, and then 6, which is the skill that you proc on when you have the ultimate. When you finish either rotation, you generally want to do 1, cancel 2, and then stay in that till your other skills are off cooldown. But if you want to fill up your ultimate faster, you can try to squeeze in a 1, cancel 2 before going into the 5, cancel, and then the rest of the rotation. It's also worth noting that the leadership is probably one of the best in the game, since it greatly increases your damage, more so than a basic attack increase that most leaderships have, and it applies to all of your own characters, specifically when you're fighting an enemy that is not a female. The leadership does state that it needs to be a male character, but from what I've tested, as long as it's not a female character, the leadership will work. So here is one example of the improvement the leadership provides. In this first test, I take down Dormammu using Drax's leadership and Chavez's support, both increasing his health, which basically increases his damage. You can note that with this team, I was able to finish the fight with 5 minutes and 30 seconds left. However, with She-Hulk's leadership, it not only works with Hulk because it improves the damage dealt, as opposed to the basic damage, which doesn't really affect Hulk, and because of that, I was able to complete the same fight 35 seconds faster. She-Hulk might not be as good as Kamala in most PvE content, but she is definitely one of the top characters for the Combat Hero Female Day, and I'm pretty sure will be ABX meta for that specific restriction. The very first test I did with her, with a really basic build, meaning just 8 physical damage Urus, no fully awakened ISO 8 set, no damage proc, and no artifact, allowed me to score 8.6 million, which is kind of funny because with a mighty CTP of destruction with a strike proc, I was able to score less with Valkyrie instead of her with no damage proc. This means that with a maxed out build, you're easily looking at least 10 million damage or more. The only thing to keep in mind is that she only has paralysis and silence in her kit now on her 4th and 3rd skill respectively, meaning that for the burn season you won't really be able to use her and you'll probably have to swap to another character. However, most players are likely going to use her in swap play using Valkyrie and Sif's Awakening, meaning you won't really have to worry about her in the burn season since those characters have it. Lastly, I took the character into PvP, and although the test isn't 100% since I do have the buffs from Challenger, it's kind of clear that this character won't really excel in this particular mode for several reasons. The first is that she doesn't have an iframe ignore, meaning that she won't really be able to contend with some of the higher meta characters. Another is that although the character has an amazing leadership for PvE that can also work great in PvP, you have to use her in the leadership position to benefit off of the leadership skill, meaning that you're not going to get a debuff removal and will likely just get CC'd to death. And lastly, although her damage is great and she can potentially take out a life of some metas, her skills are generally kind of slow and don't really provide her with much protection, meaning you're likely going to have to build her with something like a CTP of Transcendence if you want her to survive longer, or double down with something like a CTP of Destruction in order to proc quickly with the penetration to take out some of the stronger, higher health metas. I personally went with the CTP of Insight for now, since I'm basically going to be using the character to boost up other characters not only in PvE, but also PvP. I don't think a survival or damage proc will add too much for her as a solo character in PvP, so that's why I went with that build. So that's She-Hulk for you. She definitely got an amazing upgrade and is actually usable in content now, which is amazing. However, if you don't really need a combat hero character, say if you have someone like Moon Knight or Hulk, and you don't need the exact combat female hero restriction or even combat female restriction, then you won't really get much from her, especially considering if you have the old uniform already that provides the same leadership. For people who are really into Alliance Battle Extreme, I'm pretty sure she is already meta, so you'll definitely want to pick this one up. However, for everyone else, this uniform doesn't necessarily fill a particular niche, so you can definitely get away with using the old uniform if you have it, and basically just upgrading her to T3 to get advantage of that leadership in content that basically restricts you to using T3 or awakened characters. I'll definitely keep an eye out on how she does in PvP like Alliance Conquest. However, for Black Widow and her level 80 upgrade, I'm kind of on the fence on whether to do a video for that or wait till she gets her T4. I'm thinking of maybe waiting to get her to T4 to show the kind of improvement that provides, since generally level 80 just means the character gets anywhere from a minute and a half to 3-minute improvement in things like World Boss Legend, as well as some other PvE content. They get marginally better in PvP, but usually the stat bump from the T4 is where you see the best improvement and the one that is most important. Let me know in the comments whether you want to see the level 80 video or if you prefer just to see that footage included with the T4 video. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this, but the video is now over.